Thank you, Levi. As you mentioned, my name is Graham Copeland, and I'll be covering the string instrument portion of this final design project. What I've created, we've dubbed the Harpini due to its resemblance to any common harp. The design's quite simple. It's simply two individual blocks of wood that have been secured together with deck screws and four guitar strings running along the hypotenuse of the triangle we've created. The guitar strings originate along the base of the bottom leg and end at four separate points along the top leg, and then are secured by four machine screws. They have been tightened between two nuts, which are then screwed down to provide constant tension for the instrument and the notes they are playing. As you can see, there are four separate guitar strings, an E, A, D, and G note, but by varying the tension, we can actually create any number of notes needed. As you can see here, it plays like any guitar, slightly less audible because it is an acoustic without the acoustic properties of your average guitar. But it works quite well because we can tune it with the machine screws and create any number of frequencies. The changes to the design, I really made one change. Initially, I was going to drill screws into the back of the top leg and use that to provide tension. The problem with that was it was difficult to achieve the tension required while keeping the string under there, and they would often slip out or simply not be tight enough or loose enough. And there was absolutely no tuning capability. This design, with the machine screws and the nuts along the machine screws, proved much more effective in both securing the strings during the playing of Ode to Joy, as well as providing tuning required. As you can see, this instrument can only provide four separate notes at once. But because it can be tuned, you can play those four notes, the notes required by the project, tune the instrument, record four more notes, tune the instrument, record as many notes as required, and edit them all into one single song. It actually proved quite useful with the Audacity software. The final cost ended up being $11.11, which is $1.11 more than my initial projection. The reason for this being is the change I made. Rather than four screws in the back, I went with the machine screws and the washers, which ended up being slightly more expensive. The challenge came down to tuning. It was difficult to tune this instrument precisely because though it does mimic a guitar, it is not quite as precisely made. A simple turn, even slightly on the machine screw, could provide a much different frequency, so it was very difficult to be extremely fine, especially when I was making those alterations in Audacity. If I were to improve it in any way, I would make it wider, simply because I could add more strings, which allows me to play more frequencies, more notes, at one time without tuning in between. So potentially, if it could be as wide as I want, and I could play as many notes as any song will require. I didn't do this because it wasn't necessary to meet the criteria, the song I had to play, and it would have put constraints on my teammates in terms of meeting the size requirement. I wanted to stick to the size requirement I initially estimated because it would allow us to complete the project as required. But thus far, it worked out quite well, as you can hear it. It makes a constant tone. They become a bit loose. You can tighten them, loosen them, do whatever you want to them, create the sound you need. Next, I'll be turning over to Brad Gordon. He'll be covering our percussion instrument. Thank you very much. Brad?